It's a funny thing. Coming home, nothing changes. Everything looks the same, feels the same, even smells the same. You realize what's changed is you. F. Scott Fitzgerald. Chapter 1. Breakdown. Kier Campbell smacked his palm on the steering wheel of his rented black Prius hybrid SUV and roared with frustration. The engine of the vehicle had cut out suddenly, pulling him from his thoughts and forcing him to swerve to the side of the road before the car lost all momentum. He pushed the key button, but the engine didn't even splutter, and the lights on the dash were all dead. Kier had broken down on an isolated stretch of road in the middle of the snow-strewn Scottish Highlands, miles from the next village. He grabbed his phone from the holder on the dash, feeling dread coil in his gut, and as expected, he didn't even see one bar on the screen. Kier scratched his rusted beard. Fuck. I can't believe the signal out here's still so shite. He huffed, then hurriedly unclicked his seatbelt and opened the car door. A fierce gust of Arctic wind pushed resistance against the door, and he struggled to push back, but with the accompanying fierce chill to contend with, Kier let the door slam closed. He turned and grabbed his parka coat from the back seat, and then searched for the kooky reindeer antler bobble hat that he'd purchased at the airport. In the confined space, he awkwardly shucked into the coat and pulled the Christmas hat onto his head, covering his unkempt rust-red hair. Then he heaved the car door open again and stepped out onto the deserted road. The frigidity of the wind took his breath away. Kier zipped the coat up and looked left and right, considering his surroundings. The road was newly laid, charcoal grey tarmac with a white dashed line running down the centre and not a pothole in sight. It was a pang of nostalgia that had made him choose this particular route through the Highlands. He'd been away from home for far too long, and on driving north from Edinburgh Airport, a strange feeling of longing crept into his heart to travel down his old favourite route. It was by no means the quickest route to his destination, but Kier gave in to that tug of longing. Kier recalled the pleasure of being surrounded by the stunning mountainous remote scenery, and his love of driving down empty Highland roads. He could just play his favourite music as loud as he wanted, sing at the top of his voice, and then put his foot down on the accelerator and let it all go. On this road with his tunes, Kier was at one with his place in the world. While driving from the airport, Kier found he was lost in fond memories of when he'd been given his first car for his 18th birthday. Douglas had joined him, and they'd enjoyed a summer road trip driving around Scotland with the view of seeing the country and finding secluded places where they could fuck. Kier had been away from Scotland for 5 years, and Douglas, who knew where the hell he was now? That wistful memory had departed with the final shudders and gasps of the car engine. Kier popped the bonnet and took a look at the engine. He let out an exasperated sigh, having no idea what to do with a hybrid engine. He couldn't immediately see the root of the problem. Nothing had leaked or appeared broken. There was no steam cloud rising to tell him the engine had overheated. He needed help. Fast. Kier already knew the passing traffic on this Highland route would be scarce, more so because it was Christmas Eve. Highlanders were a well-prepared, hardy folk, and they would not venture out in bad weather like this, especially so close to Christmas. Everything they needed to settle in for the holidays would have been prepared weeks in advance, as no one wanted to get stuck in deep snow without supplies to see them through the harsh weather. Kier slammed the bonnet closed. He turned, leaned back on the car, and waved the smartphone around hoping to pick up a signal so he could at least send a message to his father to say that he was in trouble. But still, he couldn't find anything. Kier frustratedly kicked the wheel of his rented car and roared as a darting pain ran up his right leg. Feckin' idiot, he scolded himself. It would not do to injure himself as well. The Campbell clan were crofters and had been for 3 generations. Kier carried on the family's sheep farming traditions, but on the other side of the world. He lived at a sheep station in Queensland, Australia, where he co-managed pastoral lands of over 300,000 acres and several thousand merino sheep. Kier was heading up to his family's Inverness farm for Christmas. Making such a mammoth 16,000-mile journey to eat a turkey dinner with his folks was something he'd been reluctant to do. As far as he was concerned, when he'd left Scotland behind, he'd left all of his secrets and uncomfortable memories behind too. However, this time it was different. Kier's sister Agnes had just given birth to her first baby, and on seeing his nephew via a Skype chat, his heartstrings had well and truly been tugged home.